Perfect. Well, welcome, guys. Um, Welcome back, listeners, to another episode of Mr. Z's Hump Day podcast, where we delve into the world of cannabis and community. As always, I'm your host, Mr. Z, and today we have a special episode lined up as we bring you insights from the owners of Rochester's newest and first cannabis dispensary, licensed cannabis dispensary, The Good Life Collective. Today we have the pleasure of sitting down with the visionary mind behind The Good Life, a family-owned cannabis dispensary right here in Rochester. They recently opened up on the 18th, and their journey from Oregon to New York is a testament to the evolving landscape of the cannabis industry. Today I'm joined by Hiram, president, co-founder, and co-owner of the Good Life Collective, and we're just going to get their take on where they come from, their story, and a little bit about what their plans are here in the community. Thank you for joining us, Hiram.
Thank you for having me, Zeke.
So could you share with our listeners the story behind the Good Life?
Sure. Thank you. First off, thank you for having me. It's an honor and a pleasure for us, to be part of, the Underdog podcast.
Appreciate it.
Basically, this journey started back in 2019. Little background about myself. I'm in the payments business, right? I do merchant services, and I've been in that space for over since 2001, so roughly around 23 years. And I knew cannabis was going to be legal in New York, and I actually went to the MJ Biz show to see how my business ties into the cannabis, because I mean, we know that cannabis is a move forward industry, and we looked at cannabis as a whole, not only from a retail dispensary, but also ancillary products, right?
Sure,
that goes along, with the industry itself. So I was fortunate enough to go out to Las Vegas to the MJ Biz show, just to kind of network, educate myself, and also look into the possibility, of a license, in the New York market. And within, the whole, while I was at the show, while I was registering, they had a segment for minorities in cannabis.
Mm-hmm.
So it was an additional fee to the actual, to the
Symposium.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I thought about it, I was like, man, I said, you know what, I'm going to do it, So, and I think that was the best investment that I probably could have done, because it really changed my direction in the whole cannabis industry, and the luncheon, it was very, very powerful. It was a minority luncheon, but it was a melting pot. Everyone was there, and everyone had skin in how minorities can be more involved in cannabis. And after the luncheon, I met a guy that he does he does factoring deals for cannabis businesses out in the West Coast. And at that time, he said, "Hey, listen, I deal with a lot of cannabis business, and if you ever want to get into cannabis, you can probably get, a shop for, fairly reasonable."
Yeah.
I said, "All right, I'll keep that in mind." So remember, this is November 2019,
Right before everything had come into full scope.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So shortly after that, the pandemic came. At the time, my oldest son, Antonio, was just finishing up his bachelor's in engineering. So this was, now we're fast forwarding to April of 2020. So my son was still able to graduate via the internet. He couldn't even walk the stage or nothing like that. So, I just pretty much asked him, what do you want to do?
Where do you want to head?
Yeah, where do you want to head? And he didn't really know, he liked, music, and he wanted to get into that. But, I learned that he also consumed cannabis. And my initial reaction was I was heartbroken, right?
Yeah.
Because I was like, what? You smoke pot? Like,
oh,
pot?
no.
So coming from the banking background, it's like, man, it's, I was like, wow. So, but one thing that he did do was educate me on cannabis, and I consumed cannabis in the 90s, a lot of it, and
it was different back then.
Yeah, it was different back then.
Yeah.
I was very young, and I always looked at cannabis as it's somewhat of an alcoholic,
Yeah,
right?
it's like a
So
drug.
exactly.
Yeah.
So everyone drinks, right? But if you drink too much, then you know what? You probably shouldn't be doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of like my experience with it. But one thing I did notice is that it was very easy for me to quit cannabis, believe it or not.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, once my son started educating me, I just basically told him, I said, listen, man, I know a guy that if we want to start a new
Yeah, if you want to
business,
go for it,
yeah, if
yeah.
we want to get into business, I know a guy that I can reach out to that may have some spots for us out in Oregon. So I reached out to the gentleman. He's actually out of the state of Washington. So I reached out to him, and he said, I said, hey man, remember me from whatever, and he said,
Yep.
yeah. He said basically, I'm gonna get you connected. I said, look, we want to be legal in New York eventually. That's our ultimate goal.
Goal,
But
yeah.
I learned that it's our research showed that if you have experience in the industry,
It's an easier way of getting in.
it's an easier way to get in. So he said, so he connected me with a law firm, and that particular law firm, we did a conference call, and they really educated us on cannabis. The different types of licenses and this, that, different states, how they operate, this, that, and the third. And based on the conversation that we had, it seemed like Oregon was the more reasonable, easy entryway for us to obtain a license in a shop. So I basically told him, I said, hey, listen, do you know like a broker or someone that you can connect us with? And maybe we can see if we can negotiate a deal.
Okay.
So from there, he did connect us with a broker, and that particular broker, he sent us. We had to sign an NDA or whatever. Then he went and sent us some listings, particular ones, and there was one out in Astoria, Oregon, that we looked at. It came with the real estate and everything, but it was a little bit too expensive.
Mm.
But it was because it came with the real estate and this of that nature, and the store was pretty distressed as far as the amount of monies that it was making. And so basically, I said, we'll think about it. Let's see what's going on, this, that, and the third. And we just kind of left it alone. And then another month came by, and my son was like, hey, what's up, man? I mean, are we going to do this or we're not?
Yeah.
And I said, well, I don't know, man. Let me reach out to this guy again. So I went, I looked up the listing, and they lowered it 50 grand. So I said, all right, well, shoot, let me just call the guy. So I called the guy, and I called the broker, and I said, hey, listen, man, if you call your guy, and fast forward, this is like we're in 2021 now. I
Okay.
apologize. So around
Okay.
6 months, passed by. We kind of left it alone. My son was just kind of trying to figure things out at that point. And then now, fast forward to 2021, it was still available, and they lowered it 50 grand. So I said, all right, well, obviously they're having a hard time selling this thing. So I called again. That's when I did call the broker, and I told him, I said, listen, if the guy's willing to work with me with the financing part of it, I may be interested in it.
Okay.
So he reached out to the owner of the place, and he called me back. He said, yep, he's willing, as long as you can come up with at least 40%, 30% of the monies. He's willing to talk to you guys. I said, all right. So we actually we connected, an older gentleman. His name is Wayne Zalin, very nice guy. He's ready to ready to hang the gloves up. So we drove out. Actually, we flew out to Oregon. Me, my two brothers, and my son.
Which must have been a dream for him, man.
Yeah. So we went out there, and we're like, in the first place, as soon as we landed in Portland, the first store we went to was Cookies.
Okay.
So we went to Cookies, and I just got an bird's eye view.
Oh yeah, from the displays, the showmanship, the interior design. I can see where a lot of that has presented itself
Absolutely.
into your store as well.
100%, 100%. Much respect to Cookies. They kind of gave us, they give everyone the blueprint on how to, kind of get into the business.
For sure.
So and I noticed that my son was like a kid at the candy store. Oh, I want this, I want that. Oh, I want to come back and get this. So from there, Astoria, Oregon is like another 2 hour drive from Portland. So we drove up, and once we drove up, we got into the area. We looked at it, and you're very leery walking into. We're all the way in the West Coast. We're selling pot.
And it was an odd time too, because not much research had still been done to a lot of the medicinal benefits due to it still being prohibited. So like a lot of people still weren't privy to the CBD, CBN, and to the other compounds. Not It was just still being seen as a recreational drug.
And so basically we got there, and I'm looking at the area, and I'm like, okay, this is pretty safe. You gotta understand, I'm leaving my children
Yeah,
behind, so I want to make sure that it's a safe environment, And when we got to Astoria, it's a beautiful town out in the coast. Goonies was filmed there, a lot of history.
very welcoming too.
Exactly, very welcoming. So we just we got our meeting was the following day. Let's say we got there on a Tuesday. The meeting was on a Wednesday. So we got in there Tuesday. It rented an Airbnb. We stopped by a few shops and bought some pot.
Got a feel for it.
We stopped at the shop. We secret shop the store that we were looking. And my son immediately said, "Oh, they don't have good weed. They don't have good product and things of that nature." Then we met the very next day. We met with Mr. Zallen, and it was very pleasant. We had a great conversation. He kind of told us, he kept it honest with us. He said, "Look, the store is distressed. I live, 8 hours away.
Jeez.
I'm older. I don't want to, he was actually vertically integrated at one time, meaning he grew it.
Everything from the ground up.
From the ground up. And he was selling everything. He sold everything little by little, except this particular store. So he was ready to let it go, So we immediately, we spoke briefly. We saw the store. We kind of looked under the hood just to see what everything was there. Everything looked nice and clean. Just wasn't making any money. So from there we stayed an extra day just to kind of canvass the area just to see. And I noticed that other shops in the area were
doing pretty
well. And now Oregon is a very, very saturated market. Like we're the first and only here. Well, in Oregon is a total opposite.
Oh man.
One of 12 within a 3-mile radius. So you can imagine how competitive it is. It's like the race to zero down there.
Yeah, to the bottom dollar. What were your thoughts? Were you thinking like, hey man, I can bring that New York mentality and that New York hustle and drive out here? Was that like part of your vision when you were out there?
100%. And no knock to Oregon or nothing like that, but we're New Yorkers, man. We work hard, we're up. You can know more than us, and I've always I always taught my kids work ethic, and you can arguably say that this person is smarter than you or this person knows more than you, but at the end of the day, it's work ethic. That's what's going to beat everyone. Be the first one in and be the last one out.
For sure.
So we definitely had that hunger, in us. And not to drag the story on, we negotiated the deal, and then before we got into contract, another party came in, and out of New Mexico or so, Arizona, one of those western states, or Utah, if I'm not mistaken. It was Utah to be exact. Came in and was trying to offer the Mr.
Slightly
Zallen
more.
A lot more.
Oh, geez.
And they had a lot more cash than what we did. And, that's why I respect Mr. Zallen a lot, because, he knew what I was trying to do, which is put my kids in a much more competitive position in life.
Absolutely.
And, and he said, I just can't do that to you. You know what I mean? So.
And he saw the vision.
Exactly. So I still had to pay more, but not, I didn't have to match the offer.
So that must have been very risky for you even too. How did that, I bet that was very stressful. How did you handle, all that stress? Was it just that determination? You kept on telling yourself like, I know this is going to work. I just can't stop. I know it's going to work. Or
I just, I'm a risk taker, in business. And I believe that, my son was very passionate, about uh,
Cannabis and the
about
cannabis
cannabis and
community.
industry.
Yeah.
And I knew that, again, I knew that this is a move forward industry. So, we're gonna make this work. We don't,
Hmm.
it's still early, and it's still federally legal. So we don't
Yes.
know, once it
It
becomes
could go
federal, it
left,
can go
right.
left, right, or whatever. But we definitely want to be at the forefront,
100%.
and
100%.
put our footprint into, and hopefully dictate how the government,
Response to it, yeah.
responds exactly.
And like I bet, man, like a lot of that, it's clear and it's very evident to me that you guys are very open and expressive about your love for the community, not only just the cannabis community, but the local surroundings.
Mhm.
Being a roots grown company as well. And to set the bar almost too, so that when someone comes into your shop in Oregon, whereas before, like you said, your son was like, man, they don't got good weed there.
Yeah.
You were determined to just put that to rest and to just completely flip the script.
For sure. The way we viewed Astoria, Oregon, right? It's kind of like, let's say when you go to the baseball field, right, and you buy a bottle of water, right? It's like $4, right? That same water bottle at a corner store regular is $1,
Yep.
right? So a lot of the competition. And listen, around we are around a lot of big brands in Oregon. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In that little town, we have people that have. Normally, when people go out there, it's an additional store. They have multiple stores.
Yeah.
We are, the only one there that have only one store.
Mm.
Everyone else has
4 or 5
6.
locations. Yeah.
So, but we just feel that our message is just so much more powerful, than theirs.
And so different, family owned.
Exactly.
It's your kid's dream, man, and there's
Yeah.
nothing more compelling than that.
100%. So we went in there and we were able to, you know, disrupt the market. And what I mean by that is we came in, because Oregon does have very good weed.
Mm-hmm.
I think some of the
Mm-hmm.
best
Oh yeah.
in the United States. It's just that particular shop and the shops around there. They were just sending a lot of their overstock,
Junk, last year's crop.
stuff that they can't get rid of in Portland. So send it up to the coast. They'll buy it, for a lot more.
Yeah.
And we were like, no, we're going to give you guys what you deserve, specifically the locals.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people, because it's a tourist town, right? So a lot of the people when they go up in the weekends, they bring their product from Oregon. They
Yeah.
don't go buy there. But now we changed that perception.
Mm.
Now they're like, man, we
We
want
need
go
to stop at the Good
we gotta
Life
stop at
Collective.
Good Life. And and we knew the challenges. Where we were located. We're right on the main road. We have very limited parking. And to this day we still lose business because of parking, because it's such a
Limited, yeah.
It's so limited. But there's a lot of people that they understand. They get us like, no, this is the shop. Like we have to come in here. And one of the first things that we did was, we painted the shop. We made it look pretty. And I wish I can show you some pictures, but I don't have any. But it's a beautiful shop. It's nice and cozy. And Oregon is a different market from New York altogether. It's more deli style.
Yep.
So people just they'll come up to the shop. They can buy a gram, and we'll have to weigh it for them and serve them. That's kind of like how it is.
Okay.
Versus New York is prepackaged.
Yes.
It's already in there.
Yes.
So
Yes.
so that's kind of like the main difference. But and look, my kids, were able to take that store and quadruple the sales.
See, that's beautiful because
Yeah.
and I gotta say, that's one of the things that, being of the older generation, when you have the younger generation, you're listening to them, both can rapidly advance because the younger generation would have the benefit of the older generation's wisdom,
Yeah.
and then the older generation will get a fresh new perspective, and that
Sure.
combination is just, it shows.
It's lethal. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
It's very, very lethal. You gotta, and I learned that early in life that, you have to, one thing you can't, argue with is youth.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And that's a whole fact, and those kids, they were able to go there and bring this vibe, bring this, pay, that, quote unquote cookies vibe,
And the energy, man.
Exactly.
For sure.
Exactly.
I felt that energy when I walked into you guys' shop on the 18th. Thank you very much for having us here for
Yes.
that as well. So then in Astoria, you guys saw your first success within the cannabis industry. What was it that prompted you to bring it back to the hometown? What was it? I know it was originally, like you said, it was part of your goal to come back. When
Yeah.
did you know it was time to come back?
So it's funny because when we are doing so well in Oregon, that I was like, man, we're gonna just take over the West Coast, man. Let's,
Yeah.
we're starting to look for a second location, this, that, and a third.
Mm.
And I happened to come to Rochester for my payments business, and there was an event that Malik Evans was at. It was
Okay.
it was an international event. It was like a Dominican fest on
Okay.
Clinton Avenue. So, and I have a lot of friends that are Latin and especially specifically Dominican descent, and they had like a gathering,
Yeah.
and the mayor was there. And I said, you know what? I'm going to ask the mayor about cannabis and see where is that in New York, because at this time I knew that they rolled it out, but I don't know what type of licenses they're giving out.
And what year was this in?
This was 22.
Okay, so 2022.
This was 22 August.
So that was right when the Rochester transitioned from the Flower City, FLOUR, to the Flower City. Oh man,
Yeah.
the timing of that. Okay.
So as he was leaving the stage, and one thing I can say about Mr. Mayor Malik Evans, he's very approachable, man. He's a real down-to-earth gentleman, man, individual, man. So I reached out to him. I said, Mr. Malik, and actually I've known Malik from when he worked at M&T. He approached us on our payments business. I told him, I said, hey, Malik, I have, I didn't understand that marijuana is legal in New York, and we have a shop out in Oregon, and we would love to come out here and really and open up a shop. He was like, really, you have a shop in Oregon and you want to open up here? I was like, man, you already got an advantage, man. I'm going to connect you with, I believe her name, I don't remember her name, but her first name was like Jennifer something.
Okay.
And she said she's from the librarian. She's a librarian, and she kind of break down everything that we got going on with cannabis.
So an advocate, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So, but she works for this. Jennifer Barnes was her name.
Okay. Shout out to Jennifer Barnes.
Yes. Shout out to Jennifer Barnes. So I shot her an email, and basically she broke down to me the card program.
Oh man, yep.
And when she broke down the card program, I said, one of the things that stuck out, is that she said that you have to have a marijuana charge. I said, a charge, or you have to be convicted of the charge? She said, no, you just gotta, if the initial charge with what's cannabis, you qualify for
social equity, right?
Social equity, yeah, for the card program. I said, really? Now, in addition to that, you had to have a qualifying business that showed at least 2 years of profit.
Which, oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah, so my payments, I've been around 20 years with the payments business.
And you had already started seeing success in Oregon.
Oh
my gosh.
So I'm like, and then on top of that, I grew up in the city of Rochester, Bay and Roar Street to be exact. So that's one of the most, I never knew that was one of the most zip codes that are in poverty.
Yes, and more specifically, disproportionately affected by the prohibition laws.
For sure.
Oh man.
So they, so the average income there is like $18,000 to $20,000 a year. And I'm like, wow. And that's, so I never knew that, so basically I basically told her, I said, listen, I think I qualify for this card program. Who can you recommend an attorney? So she recommended Jason Clement from the Barclay Damon firm. Shout out to Jason, So I spoke to Jason, and he just kind of confirmed everything that she said. So I told Jason my story, and I said, Jason said, well, it sounds like you qualify, man. You know
through and through.
Yeah, so I told him, I said, well, give me a to-do list of what I got to get in order to get the process going, besides a retainer. So he advised me all the documents that I needed. And it took me probably about a week or so, because my just full transparency, I had a marijuana charge dating back from 1999, and it's here 2021 or 22. I'm sorry,
Mm-hmm.
it's 2022. So a lot of the data is hard to get,
Mm-hmm.
So I had to go a couple times to police headquarters, because it's not in the computer. They got to go
Go
to the
through files. Yeah.
and things of that nature. So, but the grace of God, I was able to get everything from, the original charge. I was able to, DMV gave me, confirm my address, that I lived
Okay.
on Bay Street at the time. And I just had everything buttoned up. And then, kind of like the icing on the cake was, hey, we got this shop out in Oregon, and we
That's
have
successful.
experience. That's
Yes.
successful, and we have experience. So now we're fast forwarding to September of 2022. That was the dead. That was like there was like an open window from September to like October to submit
Yes.
the card licensing. So we submitted our licensing there at that time, and I felt very comfortable coming into it because I just felt like we did everything right up to this point.
Yes.
So we so basically we left it alone. Go back to my kids are back at Oregon, and come November, we go back to the MJ Biz. OCM reached out to us and said, hey, like an email format saying, you guys, your application looks good. There's no deficiencies. We're gonna submit it for review,
Yep.
like to get, they're gonna permit it. So now we're in Vegas. We're in it's the MJ Biz. We got about a year in business. My kids are flexing. They
Feeling good.
feeling good,
Absolutely.
feeling good. And while we're at the show, someone comes up and says, hey, did you hear about the injunction in New York? I'm like, what injunction? I don't know. It ain't crazy. There ain't no injunction.
The Verisite,
The
right?
Verisite. So I text my lawyer and I said, what's up with this? He said, yeah. He said, it's,
Holding off. That was when they had to hold off any additional licenses until the court case was resolved.
Not even additional. Like they were issuing no licenses at all. Like they put a halt on the whole program. Then when they went back to court, then they, pardon me, they stopped the licensing from the regions that they applied, because card licenses, you had to identify what region you wanted to apply for.
Okay.
Right? So Verisite, they applied for the same exact regions that we did. So we're like, okay, this isn't good, right? So, we're like, you know what? Let's just move on. We still, we can still. There's a lot of things that we can do to get better in Oregon. We looked at an additional location out in Oregon. We had, interest in one in specific in the city of Portland.
Okay.
And but the deal fell through, and I'm glad it did, because it was a pretty big deal.
And that was so that you interpreted that as a signal to just keep moving forward here in New York.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So we then started looking. We said, let's get another location, but let's get another location in Oregon on the coast. Let's see if we can find one specifically on the coast. And so we contacted our broker, and they actually found one for us.
Okay.
And we started the letter of intent. This is May of 23.
Oh wow.
Last year.
Okay.
May of 23. So now we get word that Verisite lawsuit is going to get settled.
Yes.
We're like, okay, so we're good then. I said, you know what? We reached out to the broker. Thank you very much, but we're not going to proceed with that. We'll apologize, whatever. So June 15th, 2023, we officially got our conditional license.
Yes, here in New York State.
Here in New York State. So I said, great. So I said, we got to find a spot. So we go, and we had a pretty big deal in the city, but very close to Irondequoit border.
Okay.
And but that deal fell through. So I went and I contacted this broker that's in New York. I'm not going to say their name, but I reached out to them, and they basically said, I said, listen, I'm looking for a spot. Finger Lakes, anywhere in
Mm-hmm.
Finger Lakes, preferably, Rochester. I liked to Geneva too.
Yeah.
I was interested in that area as
But
well.
ideally, you would have liked to be here in Rochester.
Absolutely. This is my first choice. So, she asked me, how much money do I got? And I said, I have
A bit.
a little bit here and there. And she told me, she says, well, if you don't have, $1 million, this isn't going to work for you.
That's not what you wanted to hear.
I said, $1 million? I said, am I buying like the real estate with this? Or, and she basically said, no, that's just lease and build out. I said, really? I said, she's like, oh yeah. I was like, she's like saying like she's the best person, this, that, and the third, da 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 da. And I'm like, I said, you know what, ma'am, I don't think you're the right fit for me. I'm just gonna let that go. So I went and
Got another opinion.
I went on a tear. That kind of gave me the drive to say, you know what, I'm gonna prove you. I needed that fuel just to prove her wrong. I know you don't know what I know,
But what you're capable
exactly,
of too,
exactly.
Yeah.
I started looking at commercial listings, and I looked at this particular location where we're at now, and it said Monroe Avenue, and I'm like, I remember this being an antique shop, and I'm like,
Let's take a look.
Yeah, and I'm like, I don't, I'm like, damn, how can I convince this person to, this landlord to, to either sell me the property or rent it to me, right? So I called, left a message. The landlord, Mark, called me right back, and I started pitching him on cannabis. And then he said, hold on, let me stop you right there. He said, you want to open up a cannabis shop? I said, yes. And he said, are you a card licensee? I said, yes, I am. He said, well, that's exactly what I want this spot to be.
No way, man.
Yeah. I said, are you serious? He was like, yeah, we want this shop to be a cannabis shop. He said, we've been in talks with Dasney, Dasney, whatever their name is.
Yep.
And we had a lease on the table. The only reason why they didn't sign it is because an injunction came.
Well, that and Dasney was trying to sell the Jetty at the point too.
Yeah. Yep. And so I was like, really? So I was like, well, I said, well, let's have lunch, and let's talk it out. So we went. He showed me the place, and then we went and had lunch, and I kind of told him who I am, this, that, and the third. And he did his due diligence, and he called me right back. He says, we want to do business with you.
And how did that feel, man? To have all of those adversities, particularly the one where that broker was telling you, you can't do this. And to not only not fall for it, but to fall into the perfect spot. How did that feel?
I believe in God, so
For sure.
I know that everything happens for a reason. He's always been able to put me in a position where I can win, and, so for me to, put this deal together and reach out to my kids that's out in Oregon and tell them, hey, we found a spot. Now we got a license and we got a spot.
Smack dab in the middle of Rochester.
Right, smack and dab in the middle of Rochester. And so your hard work is going to pay off. You know what I mean? So
I bet that was a very touching moment for you guys too, man.
It really was, man. It really was. And fast forward, we signed a lease. We started in July. This place was a show. We got right to work. I found another, heaven sent, the best contractor, that God can put in front of me. He did, and he came in here with a crew, and we started busting this, just busting it out, and we in August. Now August comes, my best friend is getting married in Mexico, so me and my wife, we go out and to the wedding.
Yep.
And while at the wedding, my friend, a friend of mine, that's in the payments business, he helps me on the payment side of things. He's like, yeah, there's this like injunction,
another one.
They said these veterans or whatever, they're mad, they're stopping the licenses.
So that was still the Verisight, or is that
Verisight got
so
settled.
This is the Fiore lawsuit.
The Fiore.
Oh man.
So now I'm like, another one. I'm like, what? So I'm in Mexico. Reach out to my lawyer. He said, yeah, another lawsuit, unfortunately. So we were still on the build out phase. So what we decided to do at the time is just um, let's build, because we were going to do a quick build out. So we said, let's take our time now. Let's
Mm.
really put this thing down and let's beautify it. Because even if it's done, we won't be open.
Yeah.
We can't open.
Yeah. So why not take your time to just
Exactly.
really wow people and to captivate the community?
Exactly. So that's exactly what we did. We kind of took our time. We relayed everything out, and basically, I think that lawsuit got settled pretty quick.
Pretty
though.
quick. Yeah. It was about like 3-4 months.
3-4
I believe.
months.
Yeah.
They settled it. So now that that's settled, now I think it was November.
Hmm.
So now we're like, we kind of got caught, with our shorts down
Yep.
because we're like, damn, if we didn't do the extra, we probably would have been ready right now, right?
And that was when the farmer grower showcases were
Yes.
still happening. So where did that lead?
So from there, we basically finished our build out like around January. Is when we finished. Like we were ready to go. So now comes now we got to deal with OCM
Mm-hmm.
because now OCM we got to do the inspections, we got to do this, we got to do that. So we reached out to OCM multiple times, and finally they got back to us like, look, man, we're ready to go. Let's,
What are we doing here?
what
Yeah.
are we doing here? So now they come and they start, obviously we got to give them the information. It's like a big involved, the cameras, this, then, a third, all that stuff.
Point of sale system.
Point of sale
Yep.
systems, the whole 9 yards. We start doing that. And then simultaneously, we start working with the city of Rochester as well. Because you also, to get fully compliant, you got to deal with OCM and you got to deal with the municipality.
Yes, you do.
As well. So there's two different avenues, two different entities that you're dealing with. And so when we started working, we were working with OCM and working with the city. Well, now the person that we were dealing with prior, which is Linda Kingsley, well, she retired in December.
Mm.
So now we're dealing with someone else to do administration. So now they're making us go through the whole process again,
Mm-hmm.
which I wasn't too happy about. But
you were invested.
what am I going to do?
Yeah.
You know what I
You're
mean?
built out and you're ready to go.
We're ready to go. So it was, that part, it was more like the blind leading the blind,
Mm-hmm.
And, we plowed through it though. We plowed through it. We agreed on some things. We disagreed on a lot of things. But one thing's for sure, the city of Rochester was committed in getting us open.
Absolutely.
They knew that they were like, look, this is important.
This is big for Rochester.
Yeah, this is big for Rochester. We want to get you open. Just work with us. So and we did, and that that fast forward, we thought we were going to be open by March. Fortunately, March came and we still had to get, we had a C of O, but we didn't have the cannabis C of O. So they realized that, so now they made us go through a whole nother process. So, we were, so fast forward, we went through that process again, and it got to the point where we're like, look, man, we're going to do a soft opening April 13th. We're going to do our grand opening April 18th. OCM cleared us at that point.
Woo!
So we're like, listen, we're cleared. I can't wait any longer. We actually lost a few employees because we thought we were going to be open in March.
Yeah.
And some people just can't wait that long, so they moved on to other opportunities, So that's kind of like what happened there. So
then fast forward to April 18th. I was there. It was a beautiful opening. You guys were very, it was very nice of you guys to welcome us in. I know you guys joined in prayer. Just definitely seems like a very all for all community you guys have, from your staff at the door to your staff inside to your knowledgeable sales staff, your management team, your owners, co-owners. You guys are all like definitely all for one and one for all.
For sure.
Now, as locals of Rochester's, what impact do you hope the Good Life Collective will have on the community? And how do you envision your dispensary contributing to the local economy and culture?
Yeah, I mean, we're big on, job creation, giving back to the community, being part of the Monroe Ave Business Association. They had their cleanup before our grand opening,
Mm,
and it was important. We went fully staffed there,
mm,
and says, hey, we're going to clean up Monroe Avenue with you guys, let you guys
beautiful.
know that we're committed to this. You know, um, I've been in business, long enough, and I've been very, very successful on in the payment side. And one thing I do know is that money doesn't really drive me
Mm,
any longer. What motivates me is creating opportunities in the community,
mm,
jobs. The fact that my kids can wake up in the morning, provide for their family. We have people that can come in here, come to work and help build this brand
for sure.
because we're not stopping here. We're
For
gonna keep
sure.
going.
Absolutely.
We're definitely keep going. We really wanted to apply for Missouri. Just not to get off topic,
Yeah.
but
No, that's okay.
we have so many things going on here. We just with getting this shop open, we just didn't want to stretch ourselves too thin.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
we have our eyes on
It's
others
definitely in the works.
for sure. For
Okay.
sure. For sure.
Now, since that April 18th, how have you guys been welcomed in the community? Have you guys seen like a good response?
This is a vibe, man. This
For
is,
sure. It's a
we're
lifestyle.
it's a lifestyle. We refuse, to be, excuse my French, assholes or
Mm,
anything like that. People are here. They're here to spend their money. And we want to welcome them. We want to make them safe. We have top-notch security at the door, but very friendly too.
yeah, absolutely.
Our security isn't, that's
No,
big.
very welcoming, friendly, approachable.
One of the things when I hired the security company, I said, listen, I don't want an asshole on the door because I know that
Yeah.
feeling. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And if you bring an asshole to the door, then
We're probably
we're
not,
done.
it's not
Yeah,
going to work
it's
for
not going to
them.
work
For sure.
for us. Yeah, so.
Good, good. And it sounds like from what I've experienced, man, it truly is a lifestyle here. I know you guys bring together a lot of the New York brands, and it's good to see that. I know that there's much in store for you guys in store here in Rochester, and I hope that the Flower City continues to just grow with you guys.
Yeah,
It's truly inspirational, even to me, to just see people who have experienced success out in like the exact opposite side of the
for
country,
sure.
bring
Yeah.
it back home for the people, man. And I'm sure you guys are going to see the kind of support and love from the community that you envisioned when you first opened or when you first brought the thought or the goal to fruition.
For sure, for sure. It's a process, man.
For sure.
We're this isn't a race, man. It's a
Hmm.
marathon.
For sure.
It's the way we're viewing it. So, we're gonna take it one day at a time. We're gonna do one thing at a time, and one thing, we're for the peoples, man. So we're an open book, man. Anybody wants to get into this industry,
For
they
sure.
can. We're approachable, man. We have the blueprint. At least what's been successful for us,
Yeah,
because we don't have all the answers.
for sure.
We can help someone out, and they can come back and be like, hey, look, we took it from
Point A to
second base,
point. Yep.
exactly, from second base all the way to home.
It's really great and wonderful that you guys shared your success story with us. I hope that it is you guys continue seeing the success. We look forward to checking back in with you guys and see how well you've been received and how well you guys have been doing here in Rochester. And thank you to you as well for seeing us today.
No, thank you, man. Thank you for the opportunity, man.
Appreciate it.
Much continued success to you, to your
Thank you.
podcast.
I just want to take a moment to thank all of our sponsors out there. Without you guys, this show would not be possible. This has been season 2, episode 3 of Local Voices, Local Stories here at The Good Life, where it is truly a lifestyle. And guys, I just want to say thank you again to our guests. Stay smart out there, stay safe, but above all things, stay lifted with The Good Life Collective. Peace.